Let me hit present, actually, I wasn't ready. Okay. Alright. What it be? How it do? Welcome to Facial Recognition Review. So, the main question here, actually, let's start off with this. So how many of you guys signed up for Utah's facial recognition system program? If I raise a hand. How many of you guys have a driver's license? All of you? Okay, you're all signed up for Utah's facial recognition program. So basically, like, most of the states in the US, I think it's like Montana, Wyoming, and Alaska don't use facial recognition systems, but the rest of them do. Utah is one of the ones that uses it the most. So they use DMV records to like take your picture and your information and paste them to your face. So you are detectable by facial recognition. Okay. So it's only increasing. You can see on this map like how much it's being used. Like in Utah, mostly like those are the two counties here. Salt Lake County and Utah County are hot spots for it. And like the world leader in facial recognition is China. They have like 200 million cameras as of 2019. And by 2021, they're going to double that even. So like basically every Chinese citizen is in facial recognition, even kids. And that's the direction the US is probably going into. Like there's no regulation, so it's only going to keep growing. So you can use China as like a case study of what the effects could be and like what could happen. So you can see kind of in this picture, like it shows their faces. Even there's like a little kid here. Like this kid can't be more than like 6 or 7 years old, but he's in the system. He has an ID number. And everything they do in public can be seen by the facial recognition systems. Like these algorithms are crazy. They know what you're doing all the time. They can put an action to what you're doing just from seeing your face. And like if you do something negative, like some punishments, if you get caught jaywalking, they have these huge electronic billboards everywhere. It'll plaster your face up on the billboard, and it'll like criticize you, and they'll like encourage people to like call you out for it. Like if you, let's see, there's some things, I haven't gotten into social credit scores yet, so we'll get into that next. But like, let's see, there's the jaywalking one. Oh yeah, in movie theaters. If you walk into a movie theater and you're like have a bad reputation from the facial recognition system, then it'll like put your face on the movie theater before the movie, and everyone in the movie theater will be encouraged to like make you more loyal to the state. Like it's crazy. Let's see. So social credit score basically is like a system that China uses to judge their citizens, and facial recognition has like a big impact on that.
They're constantly monitored by facial recognition cameras that are able to instantly put a face to a name. Now the Chinese are also ranked, given a mark out of a possible 950 points. A score in the 700s is considered good, around the 500 mark is not. For now, the number is a sort of bad credit rating, keeping track of everyone's spending habits.
I think being ranked is a good thing. A society has to have rules. It forces us to be well behaved.
It may seem scary, but it's just like that here. We're used to it, and anyway, we don't have a choice.
But in an effort to keep all of its subjects in line, Beijing is taking the system a step further in 2020. It's aggregating data gathered by banks, private companies, and the state to rate if someone's a good or bad citizen.
By using the most data possible, the so-called big data, the system will play an important role in rebuilding a moral society.
The state will go over every detail of a person's life with a fine-tooth comb, a financial situation, spending habits, career. A good school brings benefits, but people with no schools lose rights. The cinema names and shames people considered untrustworthy, plastering their details, even their addresses, across big screens.
It's a matter of principle. Those people have to be condemned.
Those people aren't honest, so they have to pay the price.
It's only right to pay your debts. You have to blacklist those that don't.
The Supreme Court has created a blacklist for so-called bad citizens, those whose ratings have dropped to 0. On it are companies, but also 23 million people to date. Among them...
Alright, so like, it shows like if your social credit drops, you get on a blacklist, and if you're on a blacklist, like you basically just lose a bunch of rights. Like people on the blacklist are not allowed to leave the country. They have to stay in the country. Like the airport will recognize them. They're not allowed to leave. They're not allowed to cross the border. They're not allowed to use public transportation. And I think they have, like people with good social credit scores get lower prices in even like grocery stores and everything. And people with bad scores, like they have bad rates, especially on loans. Like people with bad social credit scores, for like jaywalking, you might not be able to buy a house if you jaywalk in China. Let's see. So like the worst thing about China's facial recognition though is like they single out ethnic minorities. Like I'm sure a lot of you guys heard about like the Uyghur Muslim conflict, like concentration camps and all that. They're really persecuted, and facial recognition is used to like find Uyghur Muslims, and they're singled out. They're automatically given low social credit scores just because of their ethnicity, and like they can lead to them being found really easily. Like a lot of Uyghur Muslims are on the run from the government just because of their ethnicity, and it can lead to them being imprisoned or put into internment camps. So that's like the big negative scary thing that could come from facial recognition. So the US obviously isn't that bad. Like we don't publicly shame people just because they like go into a movie theater, but we do have, like it's had a negative effect, especially in the police forces, because the main people that use facial recognition right now is the police, and it's had a negative effect in an existing, like it's perpetuated biases against women and minorities, and it works awfully on African Americans. Like they've gotten it works really bad for them. So like in 2019, there was a big controversy about Amazon's recognition system, which is their facial recognition system sold by Amazon that most of the police use. I think recognition was in use in Utah too. Let's see. And it was proven in the congressional hearing from people who had worked for Amazon that recognition works worse on minorities and women. And the reason that's a problem is because if you're falsely identified from facial recognition, you could be arrested without even committing a crime or anything like that at all. So this guy's name, he has 4 names. Robert Julian Borchak Williams. He lives in Detroit, and just this June actually, he was arrested, brought in, and even spent a day in jail for larceny, which is like, it's just robbery basically of a store. And he brought in because a facial recognition scan matched his face. Detroit used the DMV records the same way Utah does. And later it was actually proven that he did not commit the crime, but he got sent to jail anyway. Like you can see how that could have bad effects. Like going to jail, you can lose your job, a lot of bad things happen to you. Obviously, he didn't do it, and it got a lot of media attention because he was an African American man, and it had been proven already that the system worked worse on African American people, and the Michigan authorities continued to use it anyway, and then this happened. So facial recognition, it's not all bad. Like there is a reason why you use it. And actually, like kind of surprisingly, I thought before I started, 59% of Americans actually support implementing facial recognition technology. Like I was really surprised by that. But the main appeal of it also is obviously it helps a lot with law enforcement. It has its problems, but overall it does help. Like a lot of places, the police don't have time to deal with petty crimes like small shoplifting and stuff like that. If stores implemented facial recognition technology, people could be caught a lot easier, and small businesses could be helped a lot. And a lot of small businesses have actually installed Amazon's recognition already. And like you could also, a new thing that's actually coming up is like credit card companies are considering implementing facial recognition stuff. So you could link your face to your credit card and pay in person with your face without a credit card. So you wouldn't have to carry a credit card anymore, but you could just pay for things with your face at the store. So just this summer, Amazon actually announced that it would be banning police forces from using its recognition system for 1 year, just because of all the controversy around like its use against women and minorities. It just didn't work very well, especially that the Williams case got a lot of media attention and they had a lot of pressure. There were a lot of protests. Like these guys here showed up. I think this is a picture from in Michigan from when Williams got arrested. They protested Bezos using facial recognition. And IBM, that's another huge tech company. they were developing a facial recognition system that could compete with Amazon's, and they announced that they're just completely leaving the business altogether. They don't want to have to deal with the controversy that could arise from human rights violations. Oh, actually, like, recognition isn't canceled. It's only for 1 year. It's a moratorium, and they are announcing that they're fixing it to help with the unfair treatment to minorities. So my solution, I think there's 3 things. Facial recognition, I think, could be really useful if it's used correctly. There needs to be regulations on it. Like right now, there's almost no federal regulations. Actually, there is no federal regulations. The only laws about facial recognition come from state governments in some cases, but mostly just particular cities. Like I know San Francisco and Oakland completely banned it. There's a couple, like on the East Coast, there's a couple cities too that also banned it, but for the most part, like anyone can install facial recognition, anyone can use it almost across the entire country. And second, I mean, this is an obvious one, but facial recognition cannot be used as a tool for ethnic persecution. I think it was actually a really good thing that Amazon put the moratorium on their recognition system, because it can help fix that problem that they were having, and it's good they recognized that that was the case already. And third, I think facial recognition should be limited to law enforcement. Like, facial recognition shouldn't be used to, like, punish people for not being loyal to the state like it is in China. I think that's overstepping its bounds. Social credit system, I feel like, goes against all, like, the aspects of freedom and democracy in the United States, and facial recognition should only be used for law enforcement. And that should be it. Leo.
So has the social credit rating like decreased the amount of crimes that were being committed in China?
Say that again?
So like the social credit rating that you were talking about, has that like decreased the amount of like small crimes that have been committed in China?
Oh yeah, it actually does a lot, because people are just scared. They know they're always being watched, but the problem is that you can get docked on social credit rating for things that aren't even necessarily crimes. Like, if you make a social media post for, like, criticizing a local government or even, like, public transportation, then you can have your social credit rating dropped. Luke?
Do you know if the U.S. is going to be, how much facial recognition they're going to use, or is it just going to be like how it is now, where it's not really noticeable?
Overall, it seems like the restrictions they just put, Amazon banning the recognition system really kind of showed that they're trying to limit it to law enforcement. I know it's in airports for security. I think security and law enforcement kind of go hand in hand anyway. I think that's the same way. It shouldn't be. There are laws against, like, punishing people for things that are not a law anyway, so I think that facial recognition is going to stay within the bounds that it mostly already is. It'll just get more efficient from here.
Cool.
Cammy.
Last one.
Is Amazon the only facial recognition technology in the U.S.?
They're the only ones that are contracted with the police. So, like, IBM uses it for, like, in the businesses. IBM was going to use it for regulating businesses to, like, make sure employees were always, like, on task. I mean, obviously a lot of places already use cameras anyway, but it would just be, like, a more efficient way. And I know Facebook has, like, a facial recognition system for the internet almost, like, where it can recognize your face from a photo on the internet, but that's used more commercially and less for, like, law enforcement and punishment.
Thank you.